All right, let's get into some rotation. Let's get this game of golf started. I'm gonna kick my shoes off here a little bit because the game of golf rotation is so important, and we haven't really got there yet because we're working the balance and the eyes and stuff too. So now that we have this neutral position and we're really working on this, now it's time to introduce some rotation. So again, I want you to have your feet into your golf swing, all right? That's probably the best way to do this, just to kind of, again, get used to find your golf swing and then put weight on one leg and weight on the other leg. Weight on one leg, weight on the other leg. Weight on one leg, weight on the other leg. Just dropping into this leg, lifting this one up, dropping into this leg. So again, a little balance point. From time to time, stop yourself. See, like, whoa, right? So just get used to like, how much weight can I put in that leg, right? And just kind of get used to that sort of pendulum-like movement, all right? That's also going to, you're probably going to feel it here. It's going to engage your glutes a little bit too, which is never a bad thing. So now, again, in your golf swing, I put my little shooters on my hips. So I take my guns here and I put them on my hips. I just want you to get used to how much actual movement is in your hips before you're bringing everything else with you and before you're transferring your weight. So I just want you to get used to just putting your shooters on your hips and just rotate them a little bit without your hips actually moving. So notice how my shoulders and my hips are moving together. Okay, and I'm kind of keeping my head in alignment. I'm gonna look off for a second, so back to center. So inhale, exhale, back to center. Inhale, back to center. So again, make sure those knees are soft or you're gonna feel it in your knees. Okay, inhale, exhale. So as you notice, there's not a whole lot of rotation that happens from here, from the hips, right? You see the power is generated here. And so notice what happens if I throw myself off like this, right? That's too much, right? Right? And so it's getting used to, this is how much space that I'm actually playing with, and just play with that a little bit, right? You're just playing with that movement and getting your shoulders to move as well. So notice how this introduces like pure rotation in your lumbar spine. Okay? And so this is getting just used to what's possible here. Knowing that the game of golf is different, I understand you're going to be going back further and you're going to be rotating further and turning your hips as well, right? But getting used to that, this space right here, is really important in the beginning. If you can't do this well, that's the reason why you're hurting yourself when you're doing this, because this is where all of that power is initiated. So you got to be super strong within this range, because if you're going out here, and again, if you're overdoing it with your upper body, notice how like now I can really wrench that, especially if you don't have a lot of movement through your hips. So get used to that and feel free to like bend your knees a little bit and kind of rotate in through that, but stay within that sort of small space, because this is where you have the most power. So I want you to really focus on that, because if you watch people in the game of golf, they're kind of doing this thing, but then when it gets like here, notice right here, there's this thing that happens here. So you got to get used to not rotating too far back, like not too much of a backswing. And what you're doing is you're just getting ready to, again, with the breath, get used to executing with that power through the range that is super powerful. And for most people, they overswing and they end up like putting either all the power back here or all the overswing here, and now they're torquing their spine and setting themselves up for disaster and potentially hurting their hips and stuff as well. So in the beginning, and now that we're not playing the game of golf right now, it's just getting used to this really, really strong area and get used to like, so for me, it's always just, this is ringing. This is, so if you think about your spine, the center, and you're toning all of your organs, right? And you're creating that, that lumbar spine, it's just allowing you again to move within the range that you've normally got. Because what we're going to do after that is we're going to add our upper spine to that. Okay? So our upper spine, believe it or not, it doesn't seemingly have a lot of movement by itself. So if you notice, so keep your hips stable now, right? So now you're doing equal way through both feet, knees are soft, hips are stable. Put your hands here in the front and push your thumbs into your sternum. Inhale, and just see if you can just rotate this part. This will be fun, right? So keep your head along for the ride too. So it looks like this. It looks like inhale, exhale. So this is where your lungs are. So when you inhale, you're going to find there's even less movement there. So inhale. And notice what happens if I inhale. And see, here's what happens when I add my hips. But if I keep my hips facing forward and I turn from my sternum, notice how this is as far as I go. Okay? So it's just getting used to kind of almost like chunking your spine up into different pieces, because in the game of golf, you're going to be adding all of these things together. Okay? And so it's really important that they're coordinated and that you can see all the different pieces, and then you can add them all together. So now let me just add my hips into this. So it looks like inhale, exhale. All right, so again, you play with whatever range you want to play with, coordinating the breath with the movement. So we can do inhale, bring my hips with, exhale, back to center. Inhale, turn my sternum, bring my hips with, exhale, back to center. Inhale, turn my sternum, add my hips, exhale. Good. Now, same thing now, we're going to add our head and neck. So we're going to add this piece to it. So it looks like inhale. So notice how my hips and my shoulders can only go so far, and then my head is going to rotate on top of that. And then just also notice, play with this. Now from here, just look almost behind you. Look at, see if you can see anything behind you. And then back to center as you exhale. And now the opposite direction looks like, okay, sternum, hips, neck, eyes. And back to center. So a little bit more together. So here, I'm driving from my hips, driving from my shoulders, driving from my head, and looking. Back to center. Driving from my hips, driving from my upper spine, driving from my neck, and looking. And back to center. So again, I'll put my hands here. So driving this way, driving this way, driving this way, and looking. Again, knees are soft through the whole experience, equal weight through both feet. Hips, inhale. Upper body, inhale. Neck, inhale. Eyes, inhale. Exhale, back to center. So again, inhale hips. Inhale upper body. Inhale neck. Inhale eyes. Exhale, back to center. So it looks like this again. Inhale. 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 Exhale, back to center. If you're feeling this in your knees, soften your knees. Relax your pelvis. Again, trying to get used to this. I know the game of golf is like this, but you have to be able to find this to be able to find this, because it's just a deeper stance, okay? So give that a try, all right? So what you're doing is you're working on the rotational piece, right? Start out in the beginning, just wiggling this back and forth, right? Then also now you're just moving just the thoracic piece, inhaling and exhaling, okay? And you can do the same with the neck if you want to. You can say, okay, this is how far my head and neck go. Everything else is facing forward. That's as far as my head and neck goes in that position. Back to center. And to the opposite side, okay? But then when you add them all together, start down here, turn this, so we're inhaling, 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 looking, exhaling back to center. One more time, inhale, 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 looking back to center. So just get used to that, practice that, okay? And then once you got that, then it's just a matter of playing a little bit with some of the looseness. So that was all very sort of rigid. See if you can find some smoothness in that. But now what I want you to do is, again, from here, we're going to loosen this up a little bit. And again, this was within your comfort zone. Now I'm just letting my arms just kind of noodle. So I'm just kind of looking. So I'm going to start out, like you can look at, remember the last one we looked a little bit. So here's me looking at 1 o'clock and 11 o'clock. Notice how just everything is happening from here. And my arms are just along for the ride. Okay, so I'm just using my hips and I'm just letting my hips, and in Qigong we call this ringing the bell. And all you're doing is just letting your arms, again, your shoulder blades are down and back. That's all you care about, right? You're keeping that neutral spine, and now you're just moving from the hips. And again, play with the tracking, right? Play with the 2 o'clock and the 10 o'clock, right? The 3 o'clock and the 9 o'clock. Notice how I drop down a little bit further too. You can drop down and get it a little bit more into a deeper stance. Again, you can do this exercise with your head in the center, but I like to follow. Get used to the game of golf here. So just kind of play with the 1 and the 11 and the 2 and the 10 and the 3 and the 9, the 3 and the 9. So you're warming up with the 1 and the 11 and the 1 and the 11 and the 1 and the 11 and the 2 and the 10 and the 2 and the 10 and the 3 and the 9 and the 3 and the 9, okay? So you're just getting used to that, ringing the bell and kind of playing with that. So that'll help kind of loosen it up and get you used to it after you've done okay, this is how far this moves, breaking it up into pieces. This is how far this moves, right? This is how far this moves. If I start here and add this, and then add this is how far it moves, right? You play that game, you warm your spine up to that, and then it turns into a little bit, so notice how I've separated my feet a little bit further. That's cool. And again, with this particular exercise, you want to keep your feet flat on the floor. Again, later on, after you get good at this piece, right? The 1 and the 11 and the 2 and the 10 and the 3 and the 9, you see how this is, right? Now we're into the game of golf a little bit, but you're getting used to like swinging in both directions, right? Just getting used to, okay, I'm coming up with the ball on my feet, right? I'm coming up with the ball on my feet. I'm coming up with the ball on my feet. But again, notice how now I'm integrating my hips into this versus this piece right here. Notice how there's all working on this power right here, and that's what I want you to get used to before you get into the hip stuff. So I know it's a lot in one video, but you can handle it. Have fun, play back through this a few times, and play safe. And again, don't forget to breathe.